My guest today is a sports dietitian, nutritionist, exercise physiologist. She is a elite ultra marathon runner and she runs her own practice based in Sydney's Northern Beaches. Please welcome Sophie Brown.
You want first place, come play with me. You want second place, go somewhere else.
It was better later.
It was an everyday process.
Coffee's for closers only.
You're listening to the Morey Health Podcast.
Thank you, Rob.
That's okay. Soph, how have you been? COVID safe and all?
Yes, been managing quite fine, thank you. Been practicing, doing a few Zoom sessions, but now, back in the office, which is good.
Nice. Plenty of time to do some running training or?
Yeah, definitely. Been sleeping in and training at pro hours. It's good.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's what we want to hear.
Although
Alright.
there's no races to train for. So not sure what I'm training for, but that's okay.
You can do these. Have you had virtual marathons to do?
I haven't done any myself, but
Not signing up for those too quickly.
No.
Right.
No.
Waiting for the first one to come back on, you'll be there.
I'll
Yeah.
be ready.
Nice. Okay, so for all the listeners at home, can we sort of unpack who is Sophie Brown and how did she come to be the wonderful sports dietitian that she is, that I know her to be?
Yes, sure. I guess we'll start back in school days. So I've always been.
That's perfect place to start.
Far enough away. But I've always been into health and fitness. Cross country at school, little athletics. Did lots of dancing. So actually, I probably would have thought I might have been a dancer back from the school days. I did that basically every day after school. But then when I went to uni, I sort of had to choose between running and dancing, and I chose running. So I went to uni originally. I did actuarial studies at uni, even though I was into health and fitness. I did a year of actuarial studies, basically just because I got the marks for it, and I thought I better do that first. But yeah, no, I didn't really enjoy it, and I always had that passion for helping people with their health and fitness. So I changed and did exercise and sports science and nutrition and dietetics, so a combined degree at Sydney Uni. That would have been like 2004. And yeah, whilst at uni, I did like a personal training certificate and ended up being a PT as my job whilst I was studying, and did lots of outdoor fitness training, which I currently still do. So I've been doing that ever since. Got into running in seriously, probably in not seriously, but did my first trail race in 2012. So that's eight years ago now. It's a long time. And so in terms of running, I basically just followed my brother into that. He wanted to do all these running events, and I thought, well, I don't want to miss out on that. So I basically just followed him and did Glenbrook half marathon, Manly Dam, those sort of things for fun to start with. And yeah, figured out I was not too bad at them. So I started training for them and thought, let's see where I can go with that. I think my first half marathon on the trail, I came maybe 4th or 5th or something, and that was with minimal training. So I thought, yeah, let's put some effort into this and see where I got. So, fast forward 8 years. Oh, it probably took me about 4 years to build a good level of fitness. I joined Run Crew, and I was coached by Gary Howard. So that's based at Centennial Park in Sydney. About 4 years later, I probably, got to a decent level with my running. Wasn't at the pointy end. I went from an hour 45 half marathon to about an 85-minute half marathon in 4 years. And yeah, so it's decent, but it's not, not fantastic.
Not shabby at all. If I was getting those numbers, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was 4 years ago. And I guess I've kind of just maintained that since I started doing a bit of 50 and 60 kilometre ultra runs on the trails and did pretty well at them. So I've got a few podium finishes in things like UTA 50, woohoo, Tarawera 60, Alpine Challenge 6-foot track, those sort of events. Are you familiar with them?
I've actually heard of a couple of them. I don't think I'll be signing up to any of them anytime soon. I'll leave that to you, but some very impressive results, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. More recently with COVID, I started doing longer stuff. So did a couple of 80, 85 kilometre ones during COVID. It's just something to keep me
Just
sane.
casually, just, just a few hours of the day, it's fine. It's fine. That would only take me, a whole day to do. That's fine.
What else are you going to do? Other than work and train? Yeah. So sorry, I kind of went off track into my running.
No, that's
career.
awesome. No, that's good. I like it because it really kind of informs sort of your insight into how you practice.
Yeah, and I guess doing all the running myself gave me that passion on sports nutrition for endurance athletes, which is where I'm currently at with my practice. So I'm also known as the running dietitian. That's my business name.
Let's give all your sort of business and socials plugs. So
Yeah.
if we look you up on Google, it's Sophie Brown, the running dietitian, right?
Yep, that's right. Yep, and that'll probably take you to Facebook and Instagram, which is at the running dietitian. Yep.
And then your email, sophie@diethhealthfitness.com.au.
Yep. So diet, health, fitness. Good. Very
Hey.
good memory.
Thank you. We're trying.
Yeah. So I do that day to day. I also work with mental health clients. So I work with a lot of NDIS clients, and that's where I practice exercise physiology and nutrition, which works out quite well. So those clients kind of like to come in the middle of the day, whereas running and clients who are full-time work usually come at the beginning and the end of the day. So yeah, I could potentially be working all day if I wanted to. But I've got to squeeze my 2 hours of training in there as well.
Just a modest 2-hour run casually.
Yeah.
Most people that I train with want to give up their running after 20 minutes. So
yeah. Well, as an ultra runner, I'm actually quite low mileage, I've been told. Like I only do like 80 or 90.
yeah, I mean, honestly, you should be doing 100, 110 easy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, which I don't. You were joking. No, that's serious.
I know. Yeah. That's actually quite funny.
Yeah.
Just a casual 100 kilometers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. 4 or 5 hour run on the weekend.
Yeah. So at what point into your run do you kind of negate that your feet are still attached to your body and like that burn sits in and you're just like, oh, that's normal?
I don't know. I don't actually consider that. I just run. I don't feel my feet. Actually, my feet, to be honest, my feet hurt to start with, and then the pain goes away. I think it's probably, a bit of arthritis or something, too much running.
You just get used to it, right? Is it?
Exactly.
Like the blisters and it's not even a consideration anymore. It's just part of what you do.
That's it. Yep. Black toenails are in fashion for runners. How many black toenails can you get? That's the competition.
That is the benchmark. That's sort of how you're measuring yourself against everyone else.
That's right.
Yeah. So nail polish is just black. You're not even trying. No. Nice. Okay. Well, that's a pretty cool story. Is there any sort of interesting gigs or anything, probably more recently, more than ever, maybe not during COVID period, but pre-COVID even, any interesting gigs that you sort of had that you kind of go, oh, this might be something that people would like to hear about, or I really enjoyed working with these guys?
Well, I did really enjoy working with you guys, with the rugby league refs association. That was awesome.
I'll give you the $20 later for that. Thanks.
Yeah. No worries. Well, yeah, no, because I, as you know, I practice from Peak Fitness, which is in Brookvale, and that's like owned, or we're associated with the Badgers. So they're obviously pretty high up with the rugby refereeing. So yeah, that's how I got the gig with that, and it was really cool to go out, and I think you were doing a camp at the time, and I came out to Homebush, and yeah, spoke about nutrition for NRL refs, which was cool.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I really enjoyed sort of those sessions and what I got out of that. And then of course you had me pestering you afterwards, asking all these different questions about different supplements and sort of how I could optimize my training. And it's like, dude, I was there for like an hour and a half. Like, you could have asked the questions then.
Yeah. And I didn't realize you had this health background and you're an exercise physiologist, and yeah, I can see why you were very into that side of things, the science.
Yeah, most people are like, so do I eat chicken or steak? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I have a burger? I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you had some good questions.
Nah, that's cool. And yeah, so I mean, I guess for everyone listening, Gavin Badger and Casey Badger, they run, or they have ownership at Peak Altitude Training in Brookvale. Is that the one? Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're in other ones, like there's a few different locations, or if they're just at Brookvale.
I don't know. I think they're sort of, they know everyone that owns one of those, they know the other owners, and
Yeah.
yeah, Badger's been pretty good to us, exposing us to all these resources in terms of giving us a couple of sessions to train there, and also having you come and talk to us. So we feel pretty fortunate and very special to actually get access to those different high level training resources and sort of high performance professionalism components of what we do as rugby league referees.
And so you should. I guess not many people realise what referees go through. They sort of just think about what the players are going through, but you guys are up there, you're high level athletes as well. So you know, this sports nutrition and keeping yourself healthy and high performance training and nutrition is so important for you. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
You've got access to that.
Yeah. No, so again, thank you for coming down and having a chat to us for that. So I guess today I was hoping that we could unpack a few myths about nutrition and dietetics, and actually that's probably an interesting one, unpacking sort of terminology and what's the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian.
Yeah, sure.
If you wanted to touch on that to begin with, before we sort of get into the actual myths between sort of calories in, calories out, and bullshit weight loss diets, like tea, green tea, and all that crap. So, if you could unpack what the difference is between a nutritionist and a dietitian for everyone's benefit at home, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's a really good question as well, because there is a lot of confusion, and when people go and want to see a health professional, you need to know who you're going to see and what qualifications they have, and what study they have, what experience they have behind them, whenever you're seeing any health professional. So the main difference between nutritionist and dietitian is that it is in that study and that level of experience. So a dietitian has to have gone to university and has a university degree, has studied at least 3 years, 4 years for masters, I think, in nutrition now. Whereas a nutritionist could have just done a short course over a few weeks or months, and so they don't necessarily have that same level of training. A dietitian can call themselves a nutritionist, though, and I think that's why it's a bit confusing. So, if I'm not working in a clinic, the other main difference is a dietitian can work in clinical practice and works with people with chronic disease, whereas a nutritionist is more general nutrition and health. So there are some dietitians that work in that more general space, like health promotion, and then they would call themselves a nutritionist in that situation. So that's why it is a
yeah.
bit.
I would almost compare that to a personal trainer and a physio or an EP. So physios and EPs are both university trained professionals that
Yeah.
work with clinical populations, as in they've got disease or health issues more than just a healthy population. They have some sort of medical condition.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with PTs, they're really only qualified to work with
Healthy pops.
yeah, healthy pops, and you can do a 6-12 week course or a 6-month course, however much you want to spend doing your course, and you get a certificate to say that you can train healthy people.
That's right. Yeah. So if somebody has a specific, like an iron deficiency, or if they're diagnosed with IBS or something like that, then you would see a dietitian rather than a general healthy nutritionist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting parallels. I kind of it's good to sort of unpack that, because most people would have no idea, and then they'd go see a nutritionist thinking they're getting the same quality of expertise, and probably paying a similar amount, maybe not quite the same, but they might even see a nutritionist is slightly cheaper, and they go, well, if I'm getting the same information, I'll just go to them. Really, you're not. So
the other thing I should mention is these dietitians use the science, and so their advice is usually based around science and whether something has been proven to be effective or not. Whereas nutritionists, or sometimes naturopaths as well, might just have this this, I don't know what we call it. I'm not going to say opinion, but it may not necessarily be backed by complete science, but they really strongly believe in something.
right, it's not like it's Eastern medicine or anything, because that's actually been tried and tested over thousands of years. This is sort of stuff that people just go, oh, this could work, try it.
Yeah, yes.
And then
exactly.
when you look at the evidence, it's placebo potentially.
Yeah, a lot of placebo effects, for sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not very exciting because we all know that science is often inconclusive. So it's like, it may work for certain people, but not others. But we can't actually prescribe it unless we've got really good studies and research behind something. So, it makes it. You can't always give an answer.
Would you ever go and do further research?
I think not at now. I think I'm too far out of uni now to go back. I was strongly considering that at the end of the uni degree, whether I do my clinical placement or research side of it. I think me and one other person in the whole unit were interested in the research side of it, but I never actually did it. So yeah, I kind of regret that. I'm very interested in it.
Right. So we could potentially be talking to Dr. Sophie Brown, right?
Too late, but I wish.
Never too late. All right. I'm a firm believer of that. I think when I finish all my studies next year, I'll try and go into clinical practice for an extended period, and then I'm very strongly considering coming back to do PhD research, but that's for future Rob to figure out.
Yes, do it. No.
And I'll try and drag you back in as well.
Sounds good.
Okay. So unpacking myths about diet and nutrition. So first one that I kind of want to tackle is basic calories in versus calories out, how that works, and is it really that simple? Because you talk to some people and they're going to tell you, yeah, it is, and just count your calories and you'll be fine. And that's what a lot of personal trainers kind of go off when what I know and what I've sort of come to find is that it's not that simple, and nothing is really that simple. We are very complex organisms, very complex beings living very complex lives, and sometimes it actually requires a slightly more complex solution than people would first envisage. What do you
Yeah,
think?
for sure. I mean, the general idea is there, yes, calories in and calories out. So the idea is that if you're in an energy balance, like you've got an equal amount of calories in through food versus the calories out through your exercise, what most people, this is the simple version. Then if you're in an energy balance, your weight, your body composition doesn't change. Okay, so equal in and equal out. If we reduce our calories in theory, we should be able to lose weight if we're keeping our calories out the same, and vice versa. If we increase our calories in, then we will be gaining weight if we keep the calories out the same. However, calories out is not just exercise. So we've got your basal metabolic rate, or your BMR, makes up about 2/3 of, like, the hugest component of calories out.
Now, can you
Okay.
just sort of unpack what that scientific term is? Because I know you and I know, but for everyone at home.
Like the BMR, basal metabolic rate, it's the rate of energy we're burning at rest. So just doing nothing. That's the simple way.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
essentially the energy that it takes for you to be alive.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
All our bodily processes are going on, and they require energy.
Yeah. Now,
Um,
can that be measured?
It can be measured. Yes, it can be measured. Yep. If you put what's it called? Calorimetric. The gas.
Calorimeter, the hood. You can wear either a
Yeah,
mask or your the whole sort of veil thing.
that's right. So it can't be easily measured, like day to day.
Takes
But
about 20 minutes of lying down and just breathing.
when breathing, and they measure the oxygen and carbon dioxide of the air. Yeah. So it can be measured that way. And then another part of your calories out is also, I think it's pretty cool, when you eat food, you burn, your energy out goes up. So you're actually burning energy to process and digest your food, and for those nutrients to go wherever they need to go in the body. That all takes energy. So part of it, like, being not so simple, is that all food that goes in is actually quite different. So if you had, higher protein food, that's going to actually take a lot more energy to digest and process than if you're having a carbohydrate or a fat. Okay, so there lies some variability in the calories out depending on your diet. And so what am I trying to say? Just trying to unpack the calories out and where the variability is. Exercise obviously will vary day to day and over a week and over a month, and depending on if you're an athlete, over your athlete cycle of pre-season and in-season and all of that. So energy out does vary a huge amount, but if somebody is sort of weight stable, you can assume that your calories in and calories out over a longer period of time is pretty equal. To lose weight, you would need to somehow reduce calories in and increase calories out, or do a combination of both. But it's not as simple as just doing that. Like, if you did it too fast, then your body is actually quite happy where it currently is if it's weight stable. If you've been a similar weight for a very long time, it's called the set point theory. So your body is at its current set point. So if you want to change that set point, there's a certain way of doing it. And if you reduce calories too quickly, what will happen is your calories in goes down, but then your body will adjust by also reducing the calories out. So
and how would it do that? Is this what people talk about when they say, "Oh, I've got a fast or a slow metabolism"? And what sort of truths are around that? Because how do they know? Have they measured it?
Yeah. So yeah, and that is a bit of a myth as well in terms of what your metabolism does. But let's say you reduce your calorie intake really quickly. Chances say your metabolic rate would reduce as well. And that could be because you do lose some lean muscle mass and body fat. So when that happens, your metabolic rate will go down too. But it also is just the reaction of heavily restricted calories in. So your body goes into a bit of a starvation mode and it wants to preserve calories. So then you might lose weight initially, but then you get to a point where you're plateauing and your calories in are a lot less, but also your metabolic rate has come down as well. So you're at this point, but you're still not at your goal weight.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
And then what happens over time is if you're on a really restricted diet, eventually you're going to have to eat
normally again.
Yeah. And then your metabolism is down here. So you're just going to put on the weight, plus you might even gain extra weight. So that's why I don't like these fad diets and these,
Now, to avoid getting sued from any of these big corporations that are making plenty of money off everyone buying their bullshit diets, maybe we can talk in more general terms in terms of the soups and smoothies people, or the supplementation people. They want to supplement everything. When, really, if you just had a decent diet based in good nutrition, then you'd actually be in a much better position. And then sort of there's tea people that sort of claim that tea and thermogenics, where you boost your burn rate, when, a good hit session or a good run would actually do the same thing and probably 10 times better. Actually doing what people have been preaching for years. It's just a matter of doing it and making sure that it works for you and being consistent with it.
I think people these days just want that quick fix and that magic bullet or whatever it's called. And that's what these diets sort of target, because you can lose weight quickly. Quite easy to lose weight quickly if you just restrict your energy intake.
So if I was getting ready for my wedding and trying to fit into my dress, like I'm going from a size 8 to a size 6, so like I could do that in over a month, and then after that I just bloat straight back out 10 times worse.
Fat wife. Yeah. After that.
Skinny wedding, fat wife.
That's it. Lots of people. Yeah. So that's quite easy. But what's not really that exciting is behavior change and changing your lifestyle. But that actually works. So when you look into why people are overweight in the first place, a lot of it will come down to lifestyle, and it's not their fault. It's just how our society is at the moment. There's so much availability of these high energy foods. We've got advertising, and we get lured in, and just over time generally we are getting bigger as a nation. So if we can sort of tap into some lifestyle changes and overcoming some of that, then weight loss that is sustainable is more likely.
A good little tip that I kind of want to get confirmed by you is, if you're going shopping at Woolworths or Coles or your supermarket, if you stick to the edges, you're in a pretty safe spot. If you go down the middle of the aisles, then you're going to be up struggle street pretty quickly.
Yes, that's right. And that's because all the whole foods, the fruit and veggies, your meats, fish, everything's sort of around the outsides. So that's a good way of thinking of it. It's obviously
rather than the processed crap in the middle. And that's not to say that you can't eat like food that you enjoy, like a pizza or a burger. I'll come home after a heavy day of footy and I'll splurge out on a burger or a pizza. One, I'm getting some carbs and some fat and some protein. But two, I bloody enjoy it and I feel like I've earned it.
I totally agree. I don't think there's any right and wrong foods. I think we can all have any foods we like, but it's just about how frequently, how often we have them. It's that old 80-20 rule, if you're 80% right, or maybe it's even 90-10 rule, something like that. But if your everyday diet is really healthy and balanced, then yeah, why not have a burger after a big session?
That really attractive term moderation comes up.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
like that.
What is moderation? I suppose that varies depending on the food you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like a burger a day is probably not moderate.
No, that's not moderate at all. Maximum 2 a week for me. So we'll see. Unless I'm really gunning my training. So at the moment, I could probably have a few more. Um, but one
That's
thing
yeah,
that I want to cover, I guess, sort of going back a little bit in terms of those fad diets and all that crap, I guess most of them, as far as I know, the understanding behind that is originally a lot of them are designed for preparing for bariatric surgery and sort of losing a whole lot of weight really quickly, getting
yes,
your lap band surgery done, and
yeah,
then going to a normal diet over a period of time where it's a very controlled
yeah,
um, program set out by a dietitian and
yeah,
that you follow a very strict regime. While these people are buying it off the shelves,
yeah,
thinking that it's going to be, the best thing since sliced bread, and they hear it advertised on the radio as, really fast weight loss, and
yeah,
they think they're going to be able to sustain it when one, it's not being tracked by or directed by a dietitian, and then two, they're not even using it for what it's designed for.
yeah. That's right. I think the big thing there is that they're not actually getting any education or learning about when that diet stops, then what? So you need to learn about, again, changing whatever their lifestyle or their habits were before they started the diet so that they don't end up in that same position. And that's why that controlled environment where you get regular sessions with a dietitian perhaps to teach you about the healthy way of eating afterwards, and transitioning from a fad diet back into normal eating. I think that's really important too, and that's a component that's missed out on pretty much most of those fad diets, as you've mentioned.
Yeah. And then I guess that's an interesting component as well, because if you do go from your fad diet to a normal diet, and all of a sudden you're going to get a whole lot of weight gain,
Mm-hmm.
um, from all the research that I've seen, all that weight that you've regained is 10 times harder to lose next time. And then you kind of go through these boom bust cycles of, I'm going through and I'm going to go have a weight loss program and then come back up into a normal program. And then over time, your set point keeps getting higher and higher and higher,
Yeah,
where you feel like you're going through an uphill battle.
that's right. So every time you gain weight, you gain new fat cells, and you can't get rid of them once you've got them. So if you yo-yo dieting and you're gaining weight and losing weight and gaining weight, every time you're gaining weight, you're getting those new fat cells. So it's very easy to fill them up and regain the weight. So yeah, yo-yo dieting is terrible. You're
Mm.
better off finding like a very sustainable long-term fix rather than a quick diet.
Now, um, some of the stuff that I've come across in terms of dieting that would be, probably the most appropriate to push someone towards would be a Mediterranean based diet as one of the best
Yeah.
researched diets. There's others
Yeah.
out there, not saying it's the only one, but basing yourself on sort of whole grains and some good meats and fresh veggies just seems sensible to me.
Yeah, yeah, the Mediterranean one, it has been well researched, and it's one that uses that word moderation. So you can have meat in moderate amounts, and you can have low fat dairy. You can have fruit, obviously lots of fruit and vegetables. But yeah, it does talk about moderation. You can have red wine in moderation. So yeah, I'm a fan of that one.
Me too. Me too. Uh, um, yeah, that's awesome. I was going to say something about, oh yeah, fat cells. You were talking about fat cells a second ago, and it made me think about a lecture when I was in my undergrad with the great Steve Boucher. For anyone that's had to come across some of his papers or been lectured by him, he's an interesting man, and he's a big advocate for intermittent fasting and fat cells. But before we sort of talk about that, he mentioned some of the science around fat cells setting at a young age,
Mm.
and that they might reset after every 10 years, but essentially the fat cells that you have when you're younger sort of stick with you for life. And so it's very important to be as fit as you can, especially for females around to the age of 16, and then males around the age of 18 to 21.
Yeah,
Now,
as if
what sort of truths and myths are in that sort of you've come across?
I actually haven't come
Oh,
across
okay, right.
that specific thing, but it does make sense in terms of, because as I said before, once you develop the fat cells, they're there for life. So if you obviously, when you're going through that growth period, through your teenage and puberty, that's a really important time for where you're setting yourself up for for the rest of your life. So yeah, but no, I don't know specifically about that research.
That's all right, because he led on to go, if you watch things like The Biggest Loser, there's some people that lose a lot of weight and some people that lose a little bit of weight. And generally it's because when they were younger, it's the people that were fitter when they were younger, but got bigger. They were able to lose it easier than those that were always big or always carrying more weight.
Yep. Okay. Yep, that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not too well rehearsed on the science of it. I thought maybe you may have come across something, but
And from my experiences with clients, those that have been larger for a longer period of time, it is always harder for them to lose that weight. Whereas if someone has just recently gained weight or gone through a period where they've gained weight, it's then a lot easier for them to lose that.
And is the message different to them? Like, do we say to those people that have been larger for longer that, oh, maybe you do need a bit of a kickstart in your diet? Or really, as what I'm hearing is the message is pretty much the same. If you're making sensible lifestyle changes and decisions that will affect you over a long period of time and that are sustainable, then that's the best thing for you.
Yeah, I think it depends on their current health risk as well. So if somebody is like morbidly obese, and they maybe more urgently need to lose weight at a faster rate, then some of those quick diets to get them down could be beneficial, with the education about then their lifestyle change after that.
Really, it's just getting some support from someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Psychology is also very important too. So you'll often find that there's underlying psychological issues with some people that has been a cause of, or at least a factor in their weight gain and them being overweight. Yeah.
Now, one of my favorite things that Boucher did advocate was this intermittent fasting and a 16-hour fast, or also known as a 8-hour eating window.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, if we could unpack that a little bit in terms of sort of weight loss versus performance, and sort of why you'd approach something one way rather than another.
Yeah, so the intermittent fasting, there's a few different protocols. The one that you said is one of them, where you fast for 16 hours and then you have this 8-hour window where you're eating. There's another one which is like the 5-2 diet. And so on 2 days of the week, you very much restrict your calories to less than 500 or sometimes 800 calories, excuse me. And then on the other 5 days, you eat normally. That's another way of fasting. And there's been shown lots of benefits in terms of health, like liver function, insulin resistance, so diabetes control. So there's definitely been some positives in health markers with those diets, and weight loss as well. I think they're particularly useful as a weight loss tool because it's so much easier just to think I've got a diet for 2 days rather than 7 days, something like that, or only for 16 hours of a day. So it's psychologically, it's like a sort of like an easier and more sustainable way of losing weight. And yeah, so I do sometimes, coach some of my clients through that diet, if that's appropriate for them. I'm not a big fan for it for like athletes, and those who have really high energy demands. I feel like there's that risk of them training depleted anyway, and sort of putting their immune system, compromising the immune system by not having enough energy in, carbohydrates in, and those intermittent fasting diets might actually exacerbate that risk. So I use them for certain clients, for sure, but not necessarily those athletes, and particularly not endurance athletes.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one. I mean, you guys have a high enough energy sort of output
Yeah,
already. You don't need to be restricting your calories any further.
like that. And just by the nature of the training that we do is we're going to be in a depleted state at some point over the week, with our training. And so it's more about periodization of your carbohydrate intake over a week, so that you do get some benefits. And I don't know if you're probably going to ask me about this before. You do get some benefits with training training with low carbohydrate stores, but you don't necessarily need to fast for that. I won't go into it unless you want me to.
I'd love to. I love that sort of stuff. Yeah, for sure. Because then you might have the debate around like how much do you really need to have Gatorade or Powerade on hand, or is there something else that's out there that's probably better, but just not well advertised or well known? I mean, I've
Real
got
food.
something on my desk called Thoughts. What's it? Thoughts, which is just like another company that has sort of a multi-nutrient thing for
Yeah,
training.
yeah. Another sports nutrition product, fuel, electrolytes.
Yeah, it's one
Yeah,
of those. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, those sports nutrition products have a place in the diet for sure. But once you get your everyday diet right first. So I think we look at sports nutrition like a pyramid. You've got your everyday diet at the bottom. That gives you the most performance gains, the most benefits is your healthy eating day to day.
The foundations.
Your foundations, yeah. And then as you move up, you might add on top of that sports nutrition products, which could help with fueling on heavy training days or on race days or at events. Then on top of that, at the very pointy end of your pyramid, you've got supplements, and they might give you 1% advantage. Whereas if you had a poor healthy diet, you're probably down already, 50%. So you haven't got that right.
I know people are spending a lot of money on the 1% and they're nowhere near the top.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's 1% when you're training it, when you're currently operating at 45%,
Yeah. Or they'll have a protein shake as a meal replacement, and I'm going, but buddy, you need to eat properly.
Yeah.
Like you're not eating properly.
No. Yeah, protein shakes. That one gets me as well. I see a lot of people in the gym just having protein shakes and not actually eating proper food. Then they'll go to the Maccas or something on the way home. I noticed you've got Maccas on your t-shirt behind you.
Yeah, big sponsor for New South Wales Rugby League at the moment. Okay. They're paying the bills, so good on them. Look, they're not my choice to sponsor, but if they're gonna put their money up,
yeah, go for it.
Good on them. I mean, I'm not going past on my way home from a game. I'll be having something like an up and go or some almonds and fruit and stuff. So
yeah.
And then having a proper meal when I get a chance.
That's where the protein shakes could come in handy, is if you
if I was a game in Canberra and I'm trying to drive home for 3 hours, I have a protein shake ready.
Yeah, at least you're getting the nutrients you need straight after. and you don't have the opportunity to eat. So that's where it comes in handy for sure.
That's the rare occasion where I do stop at Macca's on the way home, because it's the only thing on the way home from Canberra through to Sydney.
Yeah.
There's that one Macca's as you leave Canberra, and then it's just bullshit.
I'll use Macca's in the morning for a coffee. If I'm driving out to do a run in the Blue Mountains, for example, that's probably the only place open. So I'll get a coffee from Macca's.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Actually, talking about coffee, if we sort of unpack this about coffee, and if it's a really bad thing or if it's a good thing, and, you know, being addicted to coffee and caffeine, and
Yes.
do we just take no dose, or does it matter if we have milk, and should we be putting lumps of fat or butter into our coffee to make it, you know, power our coffee? I've heard some absolute out there things, really interesting sort of ideas that, to be honest, I don't know a lot about. So I'm not going to make judgment yet. And I thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, look, I think caffeine is caffeine we know is as a performance enhancer. So if we're talking about performance, coffee is a great way of getting caffeine, as we all know. And so if you like to drink coffee, then that could be a good option to have before exercise. What it does is it makes your level of your level of effort. So if you're working at a certain level of effort, it feels easier.
Your RPE would reduce.
Yeah.
Rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, reduces for a certain amount of work. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you like coffee, then before, like I would have coffee before a race, or before a session. Like if I have to do not a tempo, a time trial. So if I'm trying to get to
your race pace.
Race pace, yep. Yeah. Go for a coffee beforehand. If you don't like coffee, then there is that no dose option, but it's really strong in terms of caffeine. So you might not go straight from not drinking any caffeine in your life to having one or two no doses. That would probably get you very jittery and
you get the shakes and feel a bit shitty. Headaches? Would you probably get headaches and stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
How much coffee is too much, or how much caffeine?
How much caffeine is too much? So generally, they say you can have 300 milligrams of caffeine a day as a general health guide. Okay, now that's equivalent to about 3 shots of coffee. So a lot of people do have a lot more than that, and caffeine is something that you build a tolerance to. So it's like the more that you have, the more that you need for the effect. Yeah. So you can change that. If you feel like you're having too much coffee, if you're getting more than 300 milligrams a day every day, then it might be worth looking at trying to reduce it gradually. And then, what you need for that performance benefit will depend on how much you have day to day. So if you're a big coffee drinker, then you might need a no dose or 2 for the performance benefit. But if you don't drink much coffee at all, then 1 coffee before might be fine.
Yeah.
For that effect.
Now, does it matter if I have an espresso versus a latte or a flat white?
Well, the main difference there is obviously the milk. So if you're getting a milky coffee, that's going to have some protein and some carbohydrates in it. So it would also act as a stimulant for the brain. So carbohydrates, we know before exercise, has this central nervous system kick. Okay, and that's a performance enhancer in itself. So if you're looking for that, then the milk would actually be a good option to have before.
If you're looking at fat burning?
Fat burning?
Yeah, if you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to optimize sort of how you do things.
Yeah. So as soon as we have a carbohydrate from the milk, our fat burning goes down. So we actually would prefer a black coffee if you're wanting to keep your fat burning at that certain rate.
Because as soon as you eat something, you start burning what you eat rather than the stores that you have.
Yeah.
A lot of people really don't make that connection between food and training.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So when we eat our carbohydrates, and we release insulin, and that's a hormone in our body, and that has that effect of down regulating your fat oxidation increasing the carbohydrate burn, or the rate of utilization of carbohydrate in the body from the food that you're having. Yeah, it's a great system we have going.
Yeah. And then if you look at sort of, I mean, you just made me think about something that we've been looking at in terms of the obesity epidemic worldwide, and looking at issues with leptin resistance and insulin resistance, and sort of the connection between the two, and sort of how that plays out for people with diabetes and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, is that something that you'd be helping people with as well?
With what? Sorry?
Sort of just getting their diet in check to counteract an insulin resistance, or counteract a leptin resistance, and sort of how they could build their lifestyle factors around their condition.
Yeah, definitely. I work with a lot of people who have diabetes, and so we look at certain ways of eating too. So if someone has diabetes, their ability, or their glucose metabolism is altered. So it's not, they secrete a lot of insulin, and so they can't process the glucose that they have when they eat something. Sorry, my voice.
All right.
Yeah, my voice is going. There we go.
Do you need some tea or water, or?
I've run out.
Yeah. Hey, look at that.
There we go. Yeah. So yes, people with diabetes have that issue that they can't process glucose as much. So when they have a glucose load, it goes up in their bloodstream. They secrete lots and lots of insulin, so they get all these sorts of other side effects of high insulin circulating in the bloodstream. So yeah, there's certain ways of eating to reduce that increase in insulin after eating something. And yeah, I help with like higher protein, but definitely not low or no carb diets, which a lot of people think is the way to go with diabetes. But it's more looking at quality.
Jumping on a keto diet.
Yes. Yeah.
Hasn't been necessarily proven for long-term effects yet, has it?
No, it hasn't. No, that keto phase. I thought we weren't mentioning diets, but
no, like I was talking about specific sort of brands and companies that could go, hey, you, rah rah rah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there, the keto diet. That's an interesting one. That one gets me.
If you want to throw out a few more interesting ones, caveman diet and carnivore diet, they're also new ones that are out there. And a word of warning with the caveman diet, the carnivore diet, if you're going to try it out, one thing that I've heard is that it does produce some interesting gastrointestinal effects, where you may initially, in the first few weeks or even ongoing, have some diarrhea and some sort of, it has sort of that diuretic effect.
Quite shows how good the diet is for you, doesn't it?
Yeah. So just be careful. Proceed with caution.
Yeah, a lot of those ones, there's that big risk of not getting enough fiber, because keto, high protein, lots of meat in diet. Those sort of certain ones that cut out, particularly the ones that cut out all your whole grains, and often fruit. Why they cut out fruit, I don't know. But anyway, so you don't get a lot of fiber, and that can definitely have changes with your, your bowel habits.
Would that potentially, like this dumb thought, you can tell me that I'm dumb, that if they're not having fruit, does that increase the risk of, these ancient diseases like scurvy to come back, or am I just being silly there?
I'm not sure. Like scurvy's for very low vitamin C, so it depends on.
Are their teeth just going to fall out, or?
Their bones might become brittle. You're not getting calcium in a lot of the diets. Yes, and we know that fruit and vegetable intakes has this really positive relationship with reducing cancer risk. So if you're cutting back on fruit, there's other chronic diseases that you're at higher risk of, cardiovascular disease and cancers, certain cancers as well. So yeah, I would
Actually,
just be cautious.
thinking about sort of disease population groups, you maybe think about sort of people with inflammatory diseases and the idea behind an inflammatory diet.
Yeah,
I don't really,
anti-inflammatory.
an anti-inflammatory diet and sort of how to go about that, but I don't
Yeah.
really know a whole lot about it. But would
Yeah.
that be something that you would talk to people through, like talk
Yeah.
people through that sort of are interested in that
I'm a
consideration?
huge fan of getting the anti-inflammatory foods in, and also having an anti-inflammatory way of eating, which comes back, like that Mediterranean diet that you mentioned before is one form of an anti-inflammatory diet. It's got lots of those fruits and vegetables in it and a lot of healthy fats. We also know that obesity, people who are obese, they've got markers of inflammation. So it's an inflammatory condition. So putting an obese person, getting them to eat more anti-inflammatory foods and healthier to reduce inflammation is also, definitely something that I would recommend.
I'd argue that most health conditions are based around an inflammatory issue.
Yeah, true. And then you've got your athletes, which exercise is inflammatory. You've got inflammatory responses. So very important. Very important.
Yeah. Interesting. I like it. Now, if we could give some, I guess, little tips and tricks. I mean, we've given 101 away already, but in terms of high-end sport athletes, just some considerations when they think about their training and sort of their nutrition. Perhaps we could split it up into sort of sprint athletes, maybe team sports, and endurance athletes.
Yeah, sure. So all these athletes have different ways of training, and their sport uses different fuel systems. So a sprint athlete obviously needs that quick muscle contraction. It often involves anaerobic exercise, so that's where you're not using oxygen to exercise, compared to an endurance athlete which is more of an aerobic activity, where you're more fat burning, less carbohydrate. So there's differences across these different types of athletes in fuel utilization. And so, what I might speak about with a sprint athlete is going to be very different from an endurance athlete. Do you want to talk about, I guess, should we go specifically can I do endurance first? Because that's my
that's your forte. That's sort of, you own that space. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So endurance athletes, as I said, the intensity will be a bit lower, and it's aerobic activity. So there's a lot of fat burning, and I think that's where this whole idea of improving your fat metabolism, going low carb, high fat, and keto, and all of that came into play. Whereas it actually, we actually have a lot of body fat on us anyway. Even the leanest person has a lot of body fat to be able to utilize, fat when they run or when they do an endurance.
And we
sport.
need fat. We need fat, people. It's important. Fat is important.
Oh yeah, we need it.
We need it.
Sure. So an endurance athlete is more looking at getting enough carbohydrates for those high intensity moments. We don't store a lot of carbohydrates in our bodies. This is anyone. And because we're training for long hours, or doing an event, hour after hour, we're training for more than 90 minutes. So basically we would run out of carbohydrates stored in our body if we did, a race for 90 minutes. That would be it. So we actually need to take on lots of extra carbohydrates to fuel that sport, that activity. And so I'd be focusing around making sure you're starting your activity well fueled for when it counts. But
how
also,
many days out would you need to start carb loading before a big event?
probably only 2 days out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
theory previously was you needed to do it for a week, but that's been disproven. It's just 2 days. Yeah. And so where is it going with that? Periodization of carbohydrate over a week is really important. So that I do think there should be sessions where you are training low. Okay, so you might
Low carb.
Yeah, which
Yep.
could just be trained first thing in the morning and you've fasted overnight. So that's training fasted.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between training fasted and training depleted. Okay, so if you're training fasted, then like we said before, you are optimizing that fat oxidation for that session. And there's certain sessions where that's appropriate for in an athlete's week. I would definitely not get them to train fasted if they're doing that time trial or they're doing a race.
More of a tempo run or something less intense.
Something lower intensity. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I talk about with athletes is when to have carbs, when not to, looking at the training that they're doing over a typical week and making sure that they're fueling when they need to, they're recovering. I think that's the most important for any athlete is that you're recovering after your training sessions.
A lot of athletes sort of just go, nah, we're just going to keep pushing. We're going to go harder and don't really look at that.
Yeah, that's right. Or I don't have time to eat. I've got to quickly get my session done and then I've got to go to work
or study or this or that. Yeah.
Yeah. You really take the time to recover after training. Yeah. And then, sprint athlete, I guess it's more looking at the body composition adaptations that you need pre-season. So if you are building strength and power, there's certain nutrition that goes with that. How do you maximize your strength, maximize your power from your diet? So we would go into that.
Nice. Now, two sort of odd ones, I guess, a little bit. Not really odd. One you'd be very familiar with. The other one you'd be like, oh, that's funny. So the first one, I guess, female athletes, their considerations in terms of loading and whatnot does change depending on their menstrual cycle and sort of where they're at in their cycle. Yes or no?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, big time. Like and sort of how to counteract that in terms of do you need to, for some people, take iron supplements, or do you need to start eating more red meat or green leafy vegetables or those sorts of considerations? If you're trying to, perform at a somewhat sub-elite level or even at an amateur level, is it worth, talking through those considerations and sort of what you should be thinking about during that period of a month or sort of what your cycle looks like?
Yes, definitely. So the hormones change obviously within a cycle, and so you get fluctuations in fuel, the way you utilize fuel, and also performance. I heard one of the Olympic athletes. This might have been pregnancy. Don't worry, that was it. She timed the Olympics so she was at a certain point in her pregnancy because of the hormone.
Right.
The hormone benefit for her race. So anyway, sorry, that was off track. But yeah, month to month hormones change, and so there's going to be a period where you are feeling more fatigued and more tired, and that's just part of that cycle. So ways you can get around it is to ensure that you're eating certain types of nutrients, in abundance, whether it's magnesium or reducing sodium, because you to reduce the effects of bloating and things like that. So yes, there's definitely dietary tweaks you can have around that, but also if you can, like, often it's out of our control. We can't really time when our races come up, but I guess being aware that if a race does come up and it's at a period in our menstrual cycle where we're, it's going to be disadvantageous for us, then, we'd be doing what we can to try and counter those effects through diet. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Now, the fun one,
Yeah.
could you unpack myths about having beers and training? So I see on the NRL at the moment, well, not just NRL. There's a whole lot of different sports, but there's a big culture in Australia around alcohol drinking and whatnot. But I see after a game, these guys will have a tin in their hand, and they'll be happily sipping away. And there's conflicting commentaries around alcohol and high performance, and some say that if you have alcohol, that's going to affect your performance for the next 2-3 weeks, and it kind of doesn't make sense in terms of nutrition and how you process food and whatnot, to me. But how would that affect you? Sort of what considerations would you take in terms of alcohol consumption and
Sorry.
people that would want to have a drink?
Sorry, someone was just calling me then. Can you repeat the question?
Of course, sorry. No, that's okay. I'm pretty sure you got like the opening part, but in terms of what are your considerations in terms of athletes that would like to have a drink, and how would that affect their performance, and what considerations should they take around training?
Yeah, I think the couple of things with alcohol is the immediate effects of it, and having too much before training will affect your ability to perform. Yeah. So you wouldn't obviously have a big session right before training, or maybe not even 24 hours before training.
Very rarely, yeah. Like it's
dehydrating. That's another one. So if you had a big session within those 24 hours, the chances of you being dehydrated to start is greater. You feel more fatigued when you're dehydrated. So, that's not a good thing.
Would your RPE increase?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So doing the same amount of work, it feels harder. So those effects of dehydration are real. It also has this, like for injuries and for recovery, it has negative effect for that. So it is sort of pro-inflammatory. It won't help with your recovery process. So I know a lot of people like to celebrate after exercise or after a game with some beers, but I would just say don't go overboard, particularly, you're doing muscle damage when you're exercising at intensity. So you want to enhance the recovery process, and alcohol will dampen it.
Yeah, and when you're considering sort of alcohol consumption in general, I mean, really, if you're having something every day, that's kind of a concern. If you're going to have a big session, as you say, you'd only have that a handful times throughout the year. And then if you were going to have, one or two, you'd only have that 1 or 2 days a week at max.
Yeah.
Sort of, especially if you're an athlete.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any problem with that 1 or 2 days a week. Moderation again. That's fine. It's just when it's just around those key sessions or games or events. That's when you've got to be careful.
Yep. And of course, would no alcohol be better than having any at all? I mean, you were saying that red wine was potentially beneficial before, so.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a J curve with the alcohol, meaning maybe 1 or 2 is actually better than having 0. Ooh. So I'm gonna go with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, in terms of health risk as well. That's why we've got a little bit of red wine on that Mediterranean diet. It's good for you.
Right. I'll have to start improving my nutrition intake then. Just a little bit. Yeah.
You'd say 1 to 2.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit, but kind of similar pathway.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned we need to build a foundation with sort of basic good nutrition. Yeah. Then you can go through sort of sports foods, and supplements is sort of the top tier.
Yeah.
If you are, at that high end, or you are trying to push yourself as an athlete, let it be amateur through to elite. Mm. And we're looking at different supplements and whatnot. And even if you everyday Joe Blow and you're sort of looking at weight gain, I know this is really not talked about a lot, so I've switched gears a little bit mentally, but I know many people that are young males that don't like to talk about it, but they really struggle to put on weight.
Yeah.
And they'll go to the gym time and time again and really not get a whole lot of, they're not getting the gains that they're expecting or that they're anticipating or wanting from all the training that they're doing in the gym, and they get disheartened.
Yeah.
What sort of considerations would you tell those people?
For those people, yeah. So for weight gain, it comes back a bit to that calorie in, calorie out. Obviously, weight gain training, if they're doing all the
hypertrophy training.
Yeah. So building muscle, that requires a lot of energy, and I think it requires a lot of energy to build muscle as well as protein. So I think what a lot of people get wrong is that they just have, maybe just protein, and they have it at the wrong time of the day, or they just have, protein shakes throughout the whole day, not really considering when they're having it, and also not considering overall energy intake as well. Because that's really important, is you need to have enough energy first, and energy comes from protein, carbs, and fats. So
not just protein.
Protein, yeah. And then looking at the type of protein. So type and timing of protein is super important for muscle gain. So timing it around or after, even before, so before and after your anabolic or your hypertrophy training is important. And we know that like whey protein, for example, is like our gold standard type of protein in terms of it maximizes protein synthesis after training.
Yep.
We know that the other one, what's the other one?
Casein.
Casein, yeah.
Yeah. What about things like pea protein and that sort of thing? All these different variations for all these sort of weird and wonderful things that claim to be healthy but aren't necessarily like organic.
Yeah, okay, that's a whole other.
That's another debate.
Yeah, but the protein has different levels of bioavailability. So some we can grab
easily
onto,
absorb.
Yeah, exactly, easily absorb, and because we've got this window after training, we've got like say it's a 1 hour window after training. It's about
Roughly.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we need to get good quality, high bioavailable protein in within that window to maximize the protein synthesis. So whey protein will do it better than pea protein.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sliding scale.
So chocolate milk and a steak with some veggies.
Cool. Yeah, you've got meat, animal protein. So from the steak is one of those high bioavailable proteins. So yes, that would be a good thing. But you also, carbohydrates often gets overlooked. We get a lot of protein powders that are low carb, but the carbohydrate actually helps in the whole process as well.
Doesn't it help absorb the protein?
Yeah, it helps it to like if you're
make it more bioavailable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So go carb and protein. Right.
Okay.
What else? And the other thing is the total load of protein. Like a lot of people try, I'm going to get 50 grams of protein in per meal. Like I'm going to have this big steak and the milk, and it might just be too much. Like
we can only absorb what, 30 grams?
Yeah, maximum 30. Yeah.
Max. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like 100-gram portion of steak. Like it's a tiny amount.
Very small. Everyone's having 250-gram steaks thinking that they're getting plenty of protein, and they're only going to actually absorb a little bit of it.
Exactly. Yep. So that's what I'd recommend. Splitting it up, probably having smaller, more frequent meals, so you can get that 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal over the day would be better than just having 3 big meals where you're getting sort of 60 grams of protein all at once.
Yeah. Makes sense. And then I guess if we look at protein versus BCAAs,
yeah. So
is there a consideration around that or preference?
Preference would be getting your protein from real food.
Mm.
BCAA is the breakdown of the protein, so it's the building blocks of that protein. It can be useful to chuck in a drink if you're having a drink, but you may as well have a protein powder if you're going to have a drink. So I think the protein over the BCAAs for the most part. Is important.
What about creatine?
Waste of money is what I'm trying to say with BCAA.
Oh, waste. Yeah, okay. So don't waste your money because you piss it out most of the time. Yeah, right. Okay, very expensive urine. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Creatine?
Creatine. Okay, so creatine definitely has some benefits in high intensity exercise or high intensity, like things like team sports and sprints, that sort of intermittent high intensity stuff. Creatine will have performance benefits there. Again, this is looking at like 1%ers, so don't everyone go out and buy creatine. It's not going to necessarily work for you
Unless you're at that top level.
I'm looking at top level and you're looking for that 1%er. Yeah. And then with these things as well, there's certain doses that you need to have, certain doses and loading rates.
Effects.
Yeah. So
periodization, off and on periods.
Exactly. Not necessarily what it says on the label either. So that's another reason why I should speak to a professional about it. Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, that's probably a good thing to mention. Everything is general in nature today and not specific to your situation. So please, if you have questions, don't just take what we've said as going to fit your situation. Go get it assessed by a professional. Sophie's available.
Yeah.
At the running dietitian, like hit her up. Come on, guys. Yeah, it's not hard.
And I get annoyed with like the supplement, like the brands, whatever they call it, the manufacturers, because they often put a lot of other useless ingredients in there. Exactly. Again, you're paying for nothing. You're paying for a little amount. Yeah.
The usefulness of pre-workout, shouldn't you just take a coffee instead?
I was going to say the usefulness of pre-workout is the caffeine. So yes, you can just take a coffee instead. Yeah, there's a lot of other crap put into it.
The only other thing in sort of some pre-workouts that I see is probably beta-alanine.
Okay, yeah. So beta-alanine in the right dose has benefits too. So whether or not you put it in the right dose in relation to the caffeine that you need from that supplement, you're probably better getting your beta-alanine separate from your caffeine, then you can do it what works for you, what's right for you.
Now, if you want to break that down a little bit, for those that don't know beta-alanine, what it is, what it does, and just letting everyone know that it actually has a ratio that you should be taking in compared to your body weight.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
If you just put your pre-workout powder in and you have whatever the preset is in that scoop, then that might not be the optimum amount for you.
No, it varies. It is based on your body weight, and you need to have it like a certain amount every 3 or 4 hours of a day. Like it's a certain protocol for it to get the right amount for you. What it does, it's got this buffering capacity, so it helps with sustained high intensity exercise. Can improve your performance with that.
So if you're not doing sustained high intensity exercise, the value of it is nothing.
Zero. So if you're going to the gym and working out where you're doing high intensity, then you're having rests in between, that's not
true high intensity endurance, sort of pushing.
Yeah. I think if you're at the gym for a very long time and you're continuously doing your repeated bouts of high intensity, maybe you might get you the benefit there.
Usefulness and repeat sprintability, potentially for a muscle buffer capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, that's
buffering your lactic acid. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then the other one I asked you very specifically about previously is sodium bicarbonate. It's something that I haven't tested yet because I'm worried about the side effects. Um, and I've been in season since we've had these discussions, so I don't want to test it with a game. I want to test it in a safe space.
Fair enough. Yeah, you can get some gastrointestinal effects from that, the stress. So that's very smart not doing it in a game situation, waiting for training, which is, I guess that's important for a lot of nutrition and sports nutrition stuff is you need to practice it in training before you do it on race day.
Competition.
Yeah, whether it's supplements or whether it's carbohydrate loading, or what else? Or just fueling, like fueling for endurance sports. That can be very different under different conditions. So you need to sort of test that out in training. Yeah.
And you're going to find out little things that work for you.
Yeah.
As well.
Yes. Yeah. And everyone's different.
Another one in terms of supplements, melatonin has sort of come up as a topic of discussion more on social media than anywhere else, in terms of its usefulness and sort of how it could work with sleep and recovery and that sort of thing. If someone's looking to increase their melatonin, maybe naturally rather than just taking supplements for it, stuff that I've come across is it Montgomery black cherry, tart cherry juice, or cherry supplementation.
Yikes.
Have you sort of come across any of that stuff?
I've come across the tart cherry juice as improving your recovery, being an effective supplement to enhance your recovery. But not specific for the melatonin, which I'm unsure about that. I need to look into that one.
That's okay. Yeah.
Now that you've mentioned it, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going down into the depths of like little niche areas of dietetics. You were mentioning something before about melatonin.
Well, no, I was mentioning this blackberry, this New Zealand blackberry. They've done a bit of research around this berry again for recovery. So
similar idea.
Oh, not with the melatonin though. No.
Okay, not with but recovery wise, and that would only again be helpful for those that are pushing really hard in their training efforts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are all these one percenters, I suppose. Oh, that's more performance, but yeah, for high end athlete, we're talking high end athletes, so yeah, it would be useful in that regards. Okay, now I have one more weird, wonderful topic. I guess I want to ask about specifically for my situation, and that is in terms of I donate blood regularly, right? And the advice that they give you, and I think it's more of a so that we don't sue them sort of thing because we don't want to pass out during exercise, or we don't want to go and lift weights and sort of our veins burst open, sort of thing, is to not exercise on the day that you donate.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes for me that's unavoidable, and I'll try and donate first thing in the morning at 7 a.m. and then my training session might be at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So
what sort of things should I be considering between that morning session and
the night? Yeah.
So morning donation and night session.
Sure. So when you donate blood, they're obviously taking out volume, but also micronutrients, and iron is a big one, or an example of something that they're taking out. So if you can focus on having like nutrient dense foods to maximize the amount you're putting back in, having some extra iron rich foods would be good. But also like it's not a natural process, right? So the body is going to be sort of I guess, healing or recovering after you get that done. And you're possibly going to be lower in blood volume, as I said, as well. So rehydrating is important. Electrolyte drinks may actually be quite useful to get that quick, electrolytes back in the system. So that's probably my thing. But also choosing a day, I think we spoke about that, was choosing a day where you're not to donate, where you don't have a really hard session or a game or anything like that, would be very wise.
Yeah, or within 24 hours. So like if I donate that morning and then I've got, so say it's a Friday and then I've got games on a Saturday, that's probably not the best idea. Try and do it throughout the week some other time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because your body's still recovering from that. It's under a bit of stress, and then you're just going to put it under more stress by doing your game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to put out there to the world and kind of go, hey guys, you need to think about this?
No, I think we've covered like pretty much what I was hoping that we would cover in terms of not being silly. I was going to say stupid. Not being silly and following these fad diets or quick fixes, and actually trying to work out what works for yourself. And that can come by speaking with someone who has experience in working. Like as a dietitian, we don't give one diet that fits all. We work out what helps in different people's situations. But yeah, I think we sort of covered that today, which was really good. And the difference between nutritionist, dietitian, always a good one to talk about. So thank you.
No, thank you for coming on and really, taking some time out of your day to hopefully provide value for anyone that tunes in. Now, final question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the better athlete, you or your brother?
Oh, well, okay, absolutely. He's faster than me.
Yeah, but relatively.
As a female athlete, I am.
And then you place on podiums where, has he been placing on podiums?
Oh, no, normally, but yes, once. So that's, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Bragging rights, sibling rivalries are real. Well done.
It's pretty, I feel for him, because sometimes, actually a lot of the time, he beats me, but then I get like awarded or prize money, but he's actually one faster than me.
I beat you.
Yeah. Poor Zach.
Nice. And again, if anyone's looking to find you, final plug.
Yep.
Where are we going?
Okay, so The Running Dietitian, and dietitian is spelled DIET, diet, ITIAN.
Okay. What do they put?
A CIAN, because I think it's the American way.
Oh, okay.
The dietitian with 2 T's.
Gotcha.
And I have a website too, which is therunningdietitian.com. So that's probably the easiest one to remember.
Nice. So guys, if you need anything, hit her up, because she is, as you know, and as you could see here today, that all knowledgeable, and she'll go, if she doesn't know the answer, like my tart cherry juice question, she's going to go and look up some research papers and become informed about it pretty quickly. So
exactly.
Thank you for being an awesome resource for me and hopefully for everyone else going forward.
Pleasure. Thanks, Rob.
Much appreciated. All right. Catch ya.
Bye.